Hello, divine creations, divine mortals, children of God. Well, felt inspired this morning to do a tune in and a little talk. So here we are. Let's start off with tuning in. And to anyone who's new, tune is a practice of receiving divine energy that can actually heal. You don't have to believe in sing. I sure didn't when I started, but to experience it, there needs to at least be some openness to it. So please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards, back in a relaxed, upright position. And close your eyes. Separate yourself from any problems, burdens, or worries. And then have the intention, the will to receive. Just keep coming back to observing your body, having the intention to receive. Just keep coming back to the moment. Keep coming back to this intention to receive, to the simple act of observing your body with the intention to receive. Welcome to everyone who's joined in live, doing the practice of receiving healing life energy. Through observing the body, having the intention to receive. So to anyone who's new, this channel is dedicated to a very wonderful man named Bruno Gröning. And he talked about faith and trust and belief in God all the time. It's one of the main things he talked about. But he talked about it very differently than most people do. You hear those words, faith, trust, belief, when talking about spiritual things or religious things. You hear those words all the time. But what do they mean? Usually when people use them, they mean a mental belief, right? Like, oh, I have faith that this book is the Word of God, or I have faith that reincarnation happens. Like, it's tends to be about an idea. And I'm not wanting to criticize that. If you believe an idea, I believe ideas, then okay. But Bruno Gröning talked about something different, or he used those words in a different way. He talked about faith, trust, and belief in the sense of trusting in that God is reliable. The word that comes to me today is confidence. To trust in God and therefore to have confidence in life and confidence to face life. I've used this analogy before, in a relationship when we trust another person, we don't think, oh, they're a good person, or, oh, I trust in them. It's more this just visceral feeling of like, oh, I can rely on this person. It's like we lean in a little bit. Maybe we lean in a lot. And that's what I believe that Bruno Gröning meant by those words: faith, trust, belief. So let's lean into God, and that what Bruno Gröning meant by God. It's he broke it down very simple: that God is love and life and existence and harmony and goodness. His theology was very simple. I sometimes like to try and summarize Bruno's teachings in just a few words, and one way that comes is God is all good and completely reliable. God is goodness itself. So let's keep it really simple. And if you have more complicated ideas, that's okay. I'm not trying to talk you out of them. And let's keep coming back to basics. And let's lean in a little bit to goodness. Let's lean into love, to aliveness itself. Thanks for saying hi, Magdalena. Namaste, Jason. What a radical way to approach God. Just to think of God as goodness. So many complicated books, and I feel grateful and a little sad to say I've read quite a few books about God. Excited because it's been quite an adventure, and sad because um, a lot of information can get in the way. And what if we went by what we experienced? What if in trying to understand God, I went by what I feel when I do this practice, or what I feel when I pray, or like when I get to know someone, a friend or a romantic interest. I don't read about them. I hang out. Right? So let's hang out with goodness and have an experience, and then mm, draw some conclusions. Actually, tell you what, if you, let's say you had read no spiritual books, had never gone to church, had never had a spiritual conversation, and you were to describe God to people based on just what you feel when you tune in, or just what you feel when you pray, how would you describe it? Please do feel free to share that right now if you'd like to type that in. Mhm. Maybe Magdalena did it already with her emojis. And wow. Wow, Jason. Jason wrote, the deepest desire of my heart. Thank you, brother. Would anyone else like to share? How would you describe God if you could only use words based on what you experience when you tune in or pray or meditate? I would say something like the best feeling in the world. It's hard, so hard to put into words, yet peace, goodness, wholeness, love, tingly, aliveness, inspiration. Love it. Jason wrote, I like to call God the fire woman sometimes. Like the most beautiful, amazing, attractive, exciting. I like that. Wow. I won't comment on specifically what you said, Jason. It feels like it's very personal. I'll just say I really appreciate it and I like it. And it reminds me of what one person was, a man was talking about, how to approach God. And in essence, he said, just say to God the same things you would say to your wife often. It's like, what are the things your wife wants you to say to her often? You're so beautiful. I love you so much. To approach God that way, not so much for God's sake, but for your sake. And that's what you wrote reminded me of. And I like it. I'm going to explore that. And, if I do that from the place of what I feel when I tune in, it's very genuine. It's very, very genuine to say to God. And sometimes I have to let go of the word God because I was raised in a tradition that didn't always say the nicest things about God. In fact, very often didn't. So sometimes I just call God presence. Sometimes I call God Allah. Sometimes Shiva. Sometimes pure mind. Not necessarily, buying into different religions, but just to use some other word than God because it was, I was just told really, really yucky things about God. But if I go by what I feel when I tune in, then it's very easy to say, oh, God, Shiva, Allah, source, love. That's one of my favorites, source love. Oh, source love. You are so beautiful. I love you so much. A mystic poet named Rumi. Oh, welcome, Electroscalar. You are welcome. Right now, I've just invited people to share. If you were to describe God, source, whatever you call it, based on only on what you experience through tuning in or praying or meditating, how would you describe it without any sort of spiritual or religious language, just based on your experience? Ah, beautiful. Heather wrote, I feel he hears us if we ask from our hearts. I think of the mountains and the rivers when I want to be with God. That's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Again, I'm not going to directly reply to anything that anyone wrote because it feels like this is very personal and it's it's your experience. But I will say what it inspires in me, and I love the idea of having it come from our hearts. And that's actually how Bruno Gröning advised people to pray with all their heart. He said that people sadly hadn't been taught that that's the way to pray. And I love your idea of thinking of mountains or rivers. And for someone else, for me, it might be the sky or the ocean. And that's actually one way that Bruno advised people to start the practice of tuning in, to think of something that makes you happy. or gosh, the stars or the universe. And I say that not to correct you in any way, Heather. I'm just going to say what is inspired in me in response to what people are writing. Beautiful. Jason wrote, I like that, Heather. I think of the rain or the ocean. Yeah. And isn't that the beautiful thing is for different ones of us, it might be, it's like, what's something that makes you happy? And it's going to be different for each one of us. So let's think of something that makes us happy, whether it be mountains or rivers or rain or ocean or stars or kitty cats. So I invited, I talked about faith and trust and belief in a new way, like belief in, trusting in, relying in the supreme reality, in source, in love, in God, whatever you call it, in it. And sometimes I like to let go of all my beliefs because it's kind of inevitable as you're on the spiritual path. And I think most people, we pick up beliefs. And so when I let go of all my beliefs and I'm like, what do I know for certain? What's not a belief, but what's something that I know in my bones? It's just a fact for me. It's a fact for me, not because, I really believe it, but it's a fact for me because I've experienced it. The things that I can say are facts for me are that there is a higher power, that its nature is goodness, and that Bruno and Jesus are available to help. These are things I've verified in my own experience. Maybe to be even more exact, that calling on Bruno Gröning, calling on Jesus works. And those are things that are just facts for me. So I'd be curious to hear what, for other people, have you verified in your own experience? And so let's see. Hey, Aaron. Hi there. I'm getting here. Oh, Aurora. Hi, Aurora. I'm getting here late. Just saw this in my feed. Animals, yes. They always make me happy. I have a cat who I was given a dire diagnosis for that has got me digging deeper and deeper into this. Her cat's name is Bruno. I love it. Oh. I was just looking over at my cat. Yes. Wonderful, Aurora. Glad you're here. And that's beautiful that's one of the things that makes you happy is thinking of animals. They have a purity. I think Yeah, animals have a purity that reminds me of God. And ultimately, I think it also it reminds me of my own purity and the purity of other people. And yes, so in terms of, you mentioned that there's something going on with your cat, and I'd like to share a story of a healing I experienced with one of my cats. Um, I don't know if you're new to the channel or not, but I've shared a little bit about my story with Bruno Gröning. But basically, I was falling apart. I literally wondered if I had, if I would be dead in a couple of years. I had so many things, and my health was just taking a very steady downward descent. And I found out about Bruno, and I experienced many healings. And then some really bad things happened, and I fell off the path. Not bad physically, but on another level. And I actually kind of lost faith. And so I kind of veered away from the path. And during that time, one of my cats got sick, and she got a diagnosis. In fact, the vet was recommending putting her down. And that was a bit of a wake-up call of like, dude, you veered off the path. Get the blankety blank back on the path and save your cat's life. The vet was recommending putting her to sleep. The diagnosis was dual kidney failure, and on one of the kidneys there was a cyst. And the vet said, we don't even need to test whether it's cancerous or not, because the dual kidney failure, she's going to die. We don't even need to know if she has cancer or not. And I said, I do not accept this. And I did a lot. Every hour, I asked Bruno, please, help Lovebug. That's her name, Lovebug. Please, Bruno, help Lovebug. I put, yeah. And so Aurora wrote, that's what I was told too. Okay. So the thing is that's just the doctor's opinion. So I need to get really clear. That's nothing other than the doctor's opinion. So the doctor is going based on what we call science. And so science is based on, I was just writing about this morning, science is based on a description of stuff. Like science is all about like describing all these different things and then doing things with things and observing the results. And then drawing probabilities. Like, oh, when when you do this test and you get this result, the probability is 99% that this will occur, or 83%, or whatever percent. Like that's, science is all about stuff. However, science has no answer for where this stuff comes from, the purpose of this stuff, and that which underlies this stuff and gave origin to all this stuff. So, that diagnosis that my cat was given and the diagnosis that your cat was given is like someone giving a diagnosis based on 10% of reality. I mean, physicists have even come to the conclusion that we can only just based on what we can observe, we can only observe 10% of the matter in the universe. So even in terms of stuff, science has finally realized, oh, we're only working with 10%. So with all of that said, I say all of that to just put forth the idea, that's just their opinion. And that's just based on the laws of matter. I don't even want to say laws, the tendencies of matter. But what Bruno Gröning taught, and what every great mystic and teacher and sage has taught, is that there's something underlying all of that. The analogy I came up with is like, imagine that life is a movie. I'm not saying life is a movie, but just as an analogy, imagine that life is a movie. Like science is all about studying the movie and describing the movie and understanding the movie and predicting the movie. But science has no capacity or description of the movie screen or the movie projector. So it doesn't actually understand or describe the fundamentals. It'd be like science. It's like if you have a good meal, it's like science can tell you all about the meal itself and can tell you about like, hey, if you eat this, it'll have this effect on your body. Or if you, well, I can't tell you that, but it can predict that. But it can't tell you about the very plate that the food is resting on, nor can it tell you about the chef. So it's very important to not take such things too seriously. And if I had, my cat wouldn't. I'm not saying completely ignore what they're saying. Take like that much. Like, okay, that's what the doctor said, and nothing is incurable and nothing is impossible. So what I did is every hour I asked Bruno for help with my kitty cat. I put her on a list. For those who are members of the Bruno Grinning Circle of Friends, there's on Facebook, there's a group where you can make Einstein requests. And so I put her on there. I did tuning in for her. For those of you who've heard of Brazzo, who is very similar to Bruno, but very different in other ways. But there's definitely some similarity, and he's actually in his body now. I'll type that in the chat. It's Braco. I did gazings with Brazzo with pictures of my cat. I surrounded my cat with pictures of Bruno and some of Brazzo's DVDs. Yes, the gaze, that's right. And I played Brazzo's voice in the background. And every hour I asked Bruno for help. So I had all these people tuning in for her. I had her surrounded by pictures of Brazzo and Bruno. I played Brazzo's voice in the background. And so she was this big. Like normally she's this big, but she had gotten down to that small. She couldn't move. I wrapped her up in a blanket. I put her in front of a heater, and that's what I did. And I did it every day, did it every hour. And within about 3 days, she started to improve. And I forget how long it took. It was maybe within a week, she was starting to move. She just laid there. It was kind of intense. And she just laid there and didn't move for a couple days. Then she slowly started to move. Then eventually she got up and moved around. And then I finally took her to the vet, and the vet retested her kidneys and said that her kidneys were healthier than they were before she had gotten sick this time. They had records from the past of her kidney levels. And they said actually her kidneys are stronger than they were a year ago. Obviously stronger before she made a full recovery. Medically impossible. But that's the thing. Laws of biology, chemistry, physics, not possible. But chemistry, that's why I hesitate to use the word law, because it's not law. Law is absolute, right? By the predictions of chemistry, biology, and physics. Impossible. And that's how, yeah, that's why I don't use the word law anymore when talking about science. Because it's not absolute. They're just predictions. And they're predictions only working with a very small part of reality and not working with the fundamental of reality. And that fundamental has been called many names throughout history. Brahman, Yahweh, Allah, Buddha nature, Waheguru. I've studied many different traditions and they have different names. But I'm convinced the person who's calling out to Allah, the person who's calling out to Yahweh, they're both calling out to the same thing. They're just using different words. And that same thing was very simply described by Bruno Gröning as our loving parent that is all around us and in us and is goodness and harmony and love and aliveness itself. So please do. Your cat's name is Bruno, right? So please do type in your cat's name. And Recto Scholar wrote, yes, Bruno is always there. Whenever we ask from the heart, he shows up in the room. I would say both things are true, Electroscalar. Bruno said, I am always with you. Really believe that. And he also said, when you call me, I come and I help. So based on what Bruno said, I think both are true, is that he's always with us. And that he said, when you call me, I come and I help. And what is supposed, I forget the next part, but it's something along the lines of what is supposed to occur, occurs. So that he is always with us. And when we call on him, somehow he's more with us. Electroscalar wrote, Einstein with all of you feels great. Hooray! I love, it's important to do Einstein on my own, and I feel it very strongly. When I do it on my own, and there is something special about doing it with other people. Heather wrote, put a photo of Bruno in your cat's basket and ask him please to take away everything that is not divine. Trust it is in his hands. Thank you, Heather. Amen. Alleluia. That sounds like really good advice. So, let's tune in and ask for Bruno, the kitty cat. Dear God, dear Bruno, please take away everything that is not divine from dear Bruno, the kitty cat. Please help all of us to trust and believe that for you, dear God, nothing is incurable, nothing is impossible, that you are the supreme physician. Bruno, you said trust in the good is the foundation, the fundamental idea of divine order. So please, God, please, Bruno, help us to trust in the good. For Aurora and for all of us, when we see something that we want to think of as illness, please help us to see it as regulation, to see it as a healing in process. Help us to have absolute confidence in the good. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks for joining in, everyone. A warm welcome to Aurora and Electroscalar. I think this is the first time you've said hello. Thank you so much for the wonderful participation, Heather, Jason, Magdalena. You're so welcome. Yeah, I watched it happen. I watched my cat on the brink of death come back to life. Aurora wrote, "How do I learn more? How to use the healing?" Two things. How to learn more. So there are. Yeah, that's a great way to learn more. Thank you, Heather. There's a documentary film about Bruno Gröning called The Bruno Gröning Phenomenon. Let's see. So I have, you can look up Bruno Gröning documentary. Okay, good. You've watched that. So here's the thing. Well, first of all, I'm going to send you a link to my website, which is thehealingstream.org, and I've created a course called Become a Master of Life, and it goes over what I consider to be the basics of what Bruno Gröning taught in very simple language. Very simple language. So I'm going to put a link for that right here. Use the healing. Now that's an interesting phrase, because part of what I talk about in the course is that one of the interesting things about following Bruno Gröning's path is being utterly convinced, or I should say, deepening our conviction that nothing is incurable and nothing is impossible, while simultaneously surrendering to God. It's not any of our jobs to heal anyone or anything. It wasn't my job to heal my cat, but it was my job to show up and support healing. But the healing is up to God. The timing of a healing and the result. It's almost like it's my job to strive for healing for myself or others, but the actual healing is up to God, and the timing of it is up to God. So it's this interesting balance of surrender, faith, and surrender. That's my understanding of what Bruno taught, and I talk about that some in the course. You're welcome to check out more of this channel. I have maybe 700 or 800 videos where I talk about Bruno's teachings a lot. I think the best book is a book called Powers of the Spirit. And if you go to my website, it says more information, and it says further resources. You'll see a section that says books. And on there's a list of organizations and some other, all sorts of resources. So there you go. There's a lot. Wow. Oh, Jason, I'm about to cry. Thank you. Jason wrote, "I highly recommend his website. I went through the course and it is the best thing Spirit has ever drawn me to. I think I have been doing Einstein for 8 months now. Aw, thank you. That means a lot to me. I'm actually really proud of the course I wrote, and I feel very grateful for that feedback, and I poured my heart and soul into that course. Wow, I feel very blessed by today. Everyone's input to get to remember. It was one of the most profound healings. I mean, my cat was on the brink of death. She wasn't moving. She was just laying there, tiny. She was half her normal size. And to watch her get up and move and gain weight and come back to life. So, and thank you for amazing suggestions. Heather, you had some amazing suggestions for how to help Bruno the cat. I love that the cat's name is Bruno. And yes. Good. So let's close with a minute or two of silence, taking in this goodness. Leaning into, trusting in God. Thank you. Thank you, beautiful souls. I wish everyone a beautiful, beautiful day. And one other thing that might be listening to healing reports can be very, very inspiring. And so I have some on my channel. If you go to my channel and look under playlists, you'll see two, miraculous helps and miraculous healings. You can not Google. Let me see here real quick. One moment. Yeah, one sec. Let's just keep tuning in, and I'm gonna look for something real quick. So I'm going to post a link from the Bruno Gurney Circle of Friends, which is to date the largest Bruno Gurney organization. Some healing reports. It's just taking space. Ah! Aurora wrote, Bruno was just taking space hiding, and after what we just did, he's come out and giving me some love. Love it. And I just posted a playlist of from the Bruno Grinning Circle of Friends of healing reports. All right, dear ones, thank you for a beautiful gathering. And let's take on the day. We've filled up with goodness. Now let's go do some goodness. Take care. Much love. And much love to Bruno the kitty cat. Take care.